Good morning, traders and potential traders. This is Nuke coming at you Tuesday, December the 18th, 2018, with another episode of Day Trading with Nuke, and this is going to be our morning watch list. What I wanted to point out to you before we get into the SPY here is that looking through my watch list on this side, what I noticed is a lot like yesterday. Aside from Apple and the higher dollar stocks, all of the stocks have a very similar volume. And then when you get down to like Johnson & Johnson, the $45 to $100 stock range, they all have very similar volume. Nothing's really standing out. And then when you get down to the AMD size stocks, again, nothing remarkable, nothing standing out. So just wanted to point that out. All right, we're going to move through this real quick. So looking at the SPY, what we're wanting to see here is we know it had a hell of a sell-off yesterday, right? And what we're trying to do is like correlate, just hang on a second. All right, sorry about that. We need to correlate what's on the daily chart with what we're looking at today. And pre-market, it's gained a little bit back, but not a lot. More importantly, once 5 o'clock hits and things starts to stabilize, you notice we're starting to set in a lower high here. So I anticipate that it's probably going to be more of a sell-off today, but it's not super indicative of that at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see. You're probably going to see a cover pop. But what we want to look at is these fibs here and how they correlate on the daily chart. So the daily chart going back at least a year, if I take and squeeze this in, when I put my cursor over here and you're looking for the blue line matching it over here. Actually, let me move this to a 3-year chart, okay? Pause it real quick. All right, sorry about that. So I got us up on a 3-year one-day chart here, and y'all didn't need to see the time it took to get there. But anyway, when we look at the SPY, if we look at 100% extension on the downside, we have to go back over a year just to get there, right? And then if we go to a 200% extension, we go back about a year and 4 months. And then once we get down to 300%, we're about a year and 6 months. And then when we get down to 400%, we're all the way back to June of 17. And that's crazy. And I think my math is off, guys. Don't quote me. I suck at math, right? All right, so what we're basically looking at, and I don't normally do this, but we're going to go ahead and throw these on here just so they're more visual. Whoops. This is where we're looking at, guys, for, of course it's going to be like this. All right. We're going to draw these in here. So do I think it's going to drop this much? Guys, that would be like a ridiculous crash, right? And then here's our pre-market low, our pre-market high, and then 100% to the upside. Now, as far as for the SPY goes, that would just have to be ludicrous that we could make this much regression without catching some footing. So I'm not going to say it's not possible, right? But we need to keep in mind what realistic and like just how long, months wise it took just to get these little hurdles made. So I know we took a hell of a header yesterday, but as you can see, we're still kind of in this range where we're close to getting to new lows here over the past year, but let's not lose our mind. There is potential for panic, but realistically, that would be a hell of a change of pace and totally upsetting, right? And even when we had these huge drops before within this past year, we did see some rallying. So we've seen a huge drop recently, a little rally, a huge drop, a little rally, but let's look at that level, right? So you notice how that stayed fairly consistent. This is testing new waters to the downside, but where do we have any more of that? and that would be somewhere up here, like at the 300% on the upside. So if we get a rally, like big money can move a lot of things. Maybe it'll kind of fluff this up a little bit. All right. This is enough background for you. Just something to think about. Keep it in your head. Man, I shouldn't tell you, Well, none of us know, right? But we're just pondering the question. What you'll notice on all these stocks, we're going to hit Apple first, is that I came back and I drew some longer term trend lines, right? Because some of this stuff doesn't make sense. And we're going to fly through this relatively quickly, just because you're going to have to do a lot of individual soul searching on the fly today, right? So what we're mainly looking at is where things are at now versus where they're going to looking at on the daily chart. Okay, so 100% extension to the upside would put Apple at 167. 100% extension to the downside, 161. Average true range is about $5.83. What does that look like for you? Basically from the pre-market high to the 100% extension, or from the pre-market low to the 100% extension above. That's more realistic of what to expect, right? But when we're looking at these other levels, I want you to watch how they correlate across the board. There's your 400%, right? Here's your, I'm sorry, I was 300. 200%. So we are finding some support here and really close here. So that makes sense if we get a cover pop to that high. The 100% extension to the upside, right? You notice we're sitting on support here and here. And then in the more relevant recent past, right? What is that looking like? Right? So those are pretty good levels to look for. And then to the downside, very near future, we don't have anything lower than this. So, yes, it could still drop, but expect a little bit of a cover pop at some point today. Tesla, I mean, look at this, just digital, right? And Tesla had been coming up to retest these not pre-market, good Lord, highs, right? But we've been getting slightly lower. So where's Tesla looking in terms of how it's doing on the fibs today versus the reality of the big picture, right? So we'll look across here. I just want you to see some of these correlations and just look for where it finds those supports and resistances, right? So on the high side, I'm looking around 358 for the 100% extension. On the low side, you got some good support there at 343. And Tesla normally moves about 14 points in a day. And we're looking from 343 to around 353. That's 10 points there just from the 100% to the top of the day. It's going to be the same from the low a day to 100% extension. So I don't really expect it getting out of this 100% range. And the only reason you see me with these trend lines of the longer term is I'm looking for places this thing's going to potentially hit its head and reject and go the other way, or find some footing and go the other way. Or does it jump in between here and ride the channel? So, and that's going to be across all of the stocks we look at. I went ahead and did that before I came in here. All right. So, we're just looking at where the fibs are putting us. So 100% on BABA, 147 to the upside, 142 to the downside, and you can see where we have those trend lines coming. So it's set in some pre-market highs that are increasing slightly, and then it's slowly dropping back down. So I expect either a cover pop or a drop, retest this, or test that 147.61 before dropping down. But the pre-market 100% extension to the high side, 147. Low extension, 142.15. And where you're at on the daily chart, you can see what the support looks like. We're basically all the way back into this territory here. Oops, so touchy when you go that far out. All right, next up is going to be Nvidia. Can't spell it with a Baba in front of it. All right, Nvidia. Again, very similar. Pops up, slowly dropping down. Nvidia normally has about 10 points of movement in a day's time. Pre-market highs 146, pre-market low 143. If we take the extension to the upside, that's 150, $13. That's a little outside of its normal reach. 100% extension to the downside, 139.85. From where we're at on the pre-market high, that's about right, or the current price. So, yeah, looking at where does that put us in support levels, right? So a year ago we hit this low, and you can see, so there's some support there. And then pre-market high a year ago we had, or June of 17, we had good support there. So not unrealistically to expect, we can find some support up in here. All right, we're going to start picking up the pace, right? Because everything's kind of looking the same, and by now you're getting an idea of what this had looked like. So Facebook, everybody loves Facebook. $5 true range every day. 100% extension to the upside is $143.80, right at the 144. If you want to go to the whole dollar mark, and you see where it's spot on with some support from a while back. Old support becomes new resistance. So 143.80 to the high side is looking strong, and on the low side 138.38. That's old support as well, right up in here. So we'll highlight that just a little bit. Well, so let's see what that looks like. Yep, we're getting there. We're getting there. Make these look a little bit better. So there. See how we're right on that? So that gives us some good, solid idea of what to expect. Oh, come on. Don't be mean. All right. Now, if we got out of that and we keep going, like what happened yesterday where things just went way further than they should have, there is support there as well. So 200% extension, 136, another $2 worth of range. It's just going to depend on, what the market does today. A lot of activity today, a lot of people panicking, a lot of stir, a lot of speculation. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your head on a swivel. Netflix has had a larger range of motion pre-market than most of the stocks we've looked at. And what we're looking at Netflix-wise, we're going to zoom this in just a little bit, is our 100% extension to the downside would put it at 259.15. Nice whole number, but you have to pass that 260 mark. On the upside, 260, well, let's call it 270, right? Nice whole mark there. So $10 range. And you have a $14 average true range. So let's go ahead and take Netflix on up to the 200 percentile. We got the 273 to the high side, 255 to the low side. 55, that's going to be really respectable, just like the 270. And I'd expect that if we went on the high side here, 273 is not going to look nearly as good as like 275. 275, yeah, we're a little bit off on where we're at, but so I'd see that as a stretch more. All right, and then what is that looking like on our daily chart? So yes, on the high side, we're looking at bumping our head here and supporting here. So yeah, those are reasonable levels to look for, and the ATR does kind of support this. All right, next up is going to be UL. This comes out of nowhere, not a stock I really follow, but it's had good volume the past couple of days, a lot of action, and more strikingly, just, this pre-market is just ridiculous because of the sell-off from yesterday. But I only threw this in there because UL had extremely high volume. So I would expect we'd be looking more at like 53.71 on the high side, 52 on the low side. It's really not as impressive as you'd like it to be. It's just, it has a lot of volume this morning. So you never know. People might be freaking out over that one. Just keep your eyes on it. Next up, Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson has had some hellacious news lately, right? When we go backwards, since all this controversy came out, they just fell off the face of the map. And now they're gaining a little bit of that back. But I think it's a little bit of false hope as larger investors try and get out. They have to give you something to bite onto as they sell out and leave out the back door. So we already have had a huge extension in the last hour to the upside, but you see how we're coming back down off of that. That's why I have this pre-market support line and this pre-market resistance from the last few days, right? So this is going to be kind of key to you as we move. So what are we actually looking at from Johnson & Johnson? Pre-market extension of 100% to the high side. We put it at 137. Pre-market 100% extension to the downside is at 124.82. Call it 125. So lots of range of motion there. It normally has about $3.85 of range. And we have that just between, we have more than that just in the 100% extensions. So this thing could be a monster today. Just depends on what kind of attention it's going to get. So keep your eyes open and be careful with it. Microsoft. We're going to take a look at Microsoft. We didn't go into it crazy. I didn't trend line it out. What was important on Microsoft is this big algo candle that fired off and then it quickly corrected itself, right? But here you can notice it's steadily dropping off and our lower wicks are getting steadily bigger, right? Even though overnight it came back up, pre-market here it's dropping down. So what are we looking at on the high side? $1.05 is 100% extension to the high side. 101 is 100% extension to the low side. This thing normally only moves $3.50, and we've got that nearly to the penny with pre-market low to, the 100% extension to the pre-market high, right? But if we look down here at the 200% extension, it's very neatly fitting at this $100 level. So if Microsoft has a really horrible day, expect that this $100 level is going to give you some ridiculous resistance up in here, right? But in the last couple of months, we've tested this a few times, right? We've tested it. So is this something where if the market starts dragging this down, you're going to see it finally break that $100 resistance, right? So don't put these levels out of your mind saying, oh, that's too much, right? Yeah, this looks like doom and gloom and you're expecting that cover pop at any moment. But this has been tested before. So, what does that look like if we went all the way to the 400% extension? Now that puts us down here. Realistically, this area between here and here, okay, or maybe you want to look at it like this. This is support that has not been tested yet. So if this thing has a bad day, you might see Microsoft slam down some more. It's not like it hasn't happened before. And what's happened before can and will happen again at some point, right, guys? So keep your mind open. All right, Square. Square has $4.50 of average range for an under $60 stock. Same thing. Overnight, it's gained some steam, and then pre-market, it's dropped off steadily. So I did draw a support line or a resistance line on there just to have something to go off of. And we want to look at what this thing looks like on a daily chart. 100% extension to the high side, 61.37. That is kind of stretching it for its daily motion. And then on the low side, 57.08. What I like about this is a good solid whole number. The next step down is 55. We did test 55 not that long ago, right? So if the market pulls, I expect that 55, 55 and a half is going to provide a hell of a lot of support for us, right? You can see it in here. You can see it here. On the high side, if things do get better, 61.39 doable, 62.83 200% extension to the high side, probably closer to 62.50, right? And that would put us support on these candles here and here. Just keep your eyes open and your head on a swivel. And one more that I didn't have on my list, we'll take a look at MU. A lot of people like MU, so we'll go ahead and take a look at it. MU's been struggling, but this area here shows some consolidation and a wedging pattern. So anybody's guess, not my place to say. So what are we looking at support-wise? Okay, so MU, 100% extension to the high side, 35.09, 100% extension to the low side, 33. All in all, about a $4 range of motion. That's double what it should get in a day, but that should give you plenty of room to what to look at. Your 100% extension to the low side has a lot of previous support, as does this 200% extension to the low side. So don't look on the area of too crazy. And on the high side, this 200% extension on the high side, you got less support than you did on the extensions to the low side. But you can see where we're hitting this range here, and that matches. It has a matching range here. So in the more recent future on the daily or history, right, you can see where this thing is kind of giving itself some basing, even though it's still kind of falling out of that. It's got wicks on the high side. It might drop more to the low side, but just keep in mind there's a wedge in some of this clutter on the daily chart. Alright guys, I've gone too long. This is one of the longest watch lists I've done in a long time. Did I even cover AMD? I didn't even cover AMD. My God, this is a huge watch list, right? So, AMD, you can see here it's consolidating. It is setting in higher lows, and it is setting in lower highs. So this thing is due to break out somewhere, some way soon. 100% extension to the high side is 1965. 100% extension to the low side, 1839. And we can see what that translates out to on the daily if we just hover over it. So let's get in a little closer. Maybe that'll look a little better for you. There's the high side extension. What if we went on up, right? So you got great resistance there. And then low side, there's your support. Alright guys, the end takeaway from this, be careful. We can't anticipate what it's going to do. We can only react to what it does do. Be safe. Do some watching. Remember, we are halfway through December, which means a lot of people are focusing on Christmas. Money is tight. There's a lot of factors here, guys. So keep your wits about you and don't go in so deep that you get some on you, right? Be careful. Be careful. Alrighty. I'll see y'all this afternoon with a post-market recap. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Sorry we went long at 23 minutes, but I think you deserved a good breakdown on this one. And I'm going to get this video out to you guys soon. Alright, bye-bye.